Eyewitnesses still recall the incident with a shudder, and those who have not heard about it before often perceive it as a gruesome urban legend. Unfortunately, this tragedy did occur, crippling many lives. Even in the West, it is widely regarded as a cautionary tale about safety in working with radioactive elements. You are on Wisioner channel, and this will be a very interesting video in which you will learn how simple negligence led to the death of several people from radiation in an ordinary apartment building in the city of Kramatorsk. I will ask you to like this video. It's really important for me and the development of my channel. Let's get started. Speaking of radiation, everyone usually remembers the Chernobyl accident. But I want to talk about another case from the history of peaceful atom in the Soviet Union, which a few years before Chernobyl happened in the Donetsk region, in Kramatorsk. This story, of course, is not as well known as the Chernobyl accident. It is often mistaken for a horror story, but it is absolutely real. This horror happened in the 80s, in a typical-looking Soviet apartment building on Gvarditsev-Kantemarovtsev Street, now Maria Primachenko Street. In 1981, one of the apartments in the newly built house number 7 suddenly began to fall ill and die. One by one, the whole family fell ill with leukemia. First, the children aged 18 and 16 died. Then their mother. After that, empty apartment was given to another family, and there began the same thing. The child of new tenants after some time also fell ill with leukemia and died. The tenants of the neighboring apartments were sick and dying. The apartments in the new building were mostly given to young people, and such a mortality rate among them seemed clearly abnormal. Of course, after this, all sorts of terrible rumors swirled through the neighborhood about a killer house, a mysterious curse, spoilage, and other horrors. The father of the dead boy knew the history of the previous tenants, so he began to push for an investigation. It was decided only in 1989. That is, 8 years after the first deaths. Specialists came to the bad apartment. They took air samples, took radiation measurements, and were horrified. The radiation level exceeded the safe level many times. The radiation source was located in one of the walls. The highest power of radiation was in the children's room, in the adjacent apartment behind the wall, and in the apartment on the floor above. People were evicted from these apartments. And in order to cut out part of the wall, lead plates were nailed to its section with the radiation source to protect the workers. The driver of the sand truck was also shielded with lead plates and an apron, and the car took the dangerous cargo to the factory laboratory, where it was picked up by specialists from the Kiev Institute for Nuclear Research. Before and after the builder's work in the apartment, we took swabs to exclude the version of radioactive powder. It was not found, everything was clean. The gamma background in the apartments was the same as in the street, the former chief doctor of Kramatorsk Nikolai Savchenko told later in an interview. The radiation was caused by a small radioactive capsule embedded in a wall, which was in a level meter and was accidentally lost in the Karensk gravel pit in the late 1970s. It only became known in 1990 when the capsule, size 8 by 4 mm, was extracted from a piece of wall and the number was used to determine its place of registration. According to the rules, the lost radiation source was supposed to be searched for and found, but the quarry employees simply balked at it, and thus the capsule ended up in concrete. The investigation determined that the search for the capsule was inadequate, but there was no way to save the people. After everything was uncovered, the city was shocked. Even more shocked were the tenants of the ill-fated house. As the Kramatorskaya Pravda newspaper wrote in December 1989, the tenants demanded that their apartments be examined, and they were provided with medical assistance. In March 1990, specialists, doctors and representatives of the executive committee met with the residents and gave each of them a protocol of the doses received. It was reported that the meeting was held in a tense atmosphere. It was not possible to dispel the residents' distrust in the results of the surveys completely. The meeting was very tragic. Angry shouts, tears, it was all understandable. Doses above the natural background were received by 17 people, recalled Nikolai Savchenko, former chief doctor of the Kramatorsk Sanitary and Epidemiological Station, in an interview. People did not want to continue living in the radioactive new building. They did not believe that the house and their property in the apartments did not accumulate radiation. They demanded new apartments, but of course, no one would give them anything. Somewhere in the West, citizens would be able to sue for such compensation worth many millions of dollars, but in the USSR, the people were told to go home. Like anything can happen, there's nothing to be done. The house killer still exists today. The radioactive part of the wall was cut out, and after that the radiation level was normalized. But to be honest, I still wouldn't want to live in such a horrible apartment after everything that happened there. Would you? Write about it in the comments. The residents of Kramatorsk also shuddered at first from the killer house. They wrote that at the turn of the 80s to 90s the house was a leper, it was very difficult to sell or rent an apartment there. Today everything seems to have been forgotten, although the town knows this story well, it has become a major urban legend in Kramatorsk. City newspapers wrote that from 1981 to 1989 6 residents died from radiation in house number 7, 4 of whom were minors. Those who are nostalgic for the Soviet Union today like to recall cheap sausage and ice cream, but for some reason do not like to recall such stories. If you were interested, thank the author by putting a like. And also do not forget to subscribe so as not to miss the outputs of even more interesting videos of my channel. Turn on notifications by clicking on the bell and share this video with your friends. What else interesting can you add to this video? Write in the comments, it will be interesting to read.